Good morning, afternoon, or evening, beautiful people. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. If you are new around here, every single day we release a jam-packed market update just like this one, where we help you stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the cryptocurrency space, and also we take a look at what's going on with markets. As we know that crypto is finding itself in the ecosystem of markets. It's kind of entered that ecosystem. And that's where I want to touch or start the video off, is going back to a clip of Larry Fink talking about this industry broadly and the transformative properties that it brings to the table. So we will be starting the video with a clip of Larry Fink. Then we've got some really interesting things to dive into. We'll be looking at crypto and the Bitcoin chart as always. Because we've got kind of a couple of plays in the short term at hand here. You know, do we get up to sort of 28,500 and then roll over and look for a deeper C wave? And then you'd have put in your B wave up to 28,500. That would also kind of confirm with a potential head and shoulders that's setting up, which could see Bitcoin come to the downside of 20K. Or do we, and we have said now for a couple of weeks, or really since we ended up in this sort of range where we're hammering out lows, this looks quite like bottoming structure. You know, we liked Ethereum in regards to short-term structure that could lead to upside. This is quite typical of how things bottom, but we'll dive into that. It's quite a make or break time for crypto. Ultimately, you know, I almost feel like a survivor of September. People were very much painting a very horrific picture of September. And we said, actually, the mean for September is usually 6% month on month over the past 11 years. Doesn't have to be a particularly bad month. And so far, it's been a green month going into October, November, which are historically the most bullish months for the market. So we will be looking at that. We'll be talking a little bit about what's to come with CPIs and stuff. And then we had some really interesting things take place with the 2-year yields. And I'll just show you that quickly before we kick things off with the BlackRock video. And that was this wick. Now, this is a daily. If we drop down to a 4-hourly, this is, ladies and gentlemen, probably the largest market in the world, which is the bond market, which is the center, the linchpin for the economy generally in the US. Everything's stuffed with bonds. And yield spiking like that means that bonds went down. You know, are we going to see something similar to what we saw with the gilts in the UK? No one's a buyer of bonds. We need to do a whole study on that on this channel because the bond market is just so key to everything. But let's kick things off, and then we'll look at a number of debt-related things. Let's kick things off, as promised, with a video of Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO, largest asset manager in the world, talking about crypto when asked and what he thinks about it. So let's get into that clip, guys.
Can you talk about where crypto fits?
Well, I can't talk about Bitcoin because we have a filing with the SEC, so I'm prohibited. I could talk about crypto in general, and I could talk about what we have done. You know, we believe we have a responsibility to democratize investing, and we've done a great job. And the role of ETFs in the world is transforming investing, and I think we're only at the beginning of that. I mean, we believe the fixed income market is going to become multiple $1 trillion in ETFs. Equities will continue. More and more of the market will be delivered through an ETF platform. If you think about what was done 20 years ago now with the advent of a gold ETF, that really democratized gold investing. It brought down the cost of transaction for gold. I mean, the cost of transacting physical gold is absurd. And now with crypto, the idea of democratizing that role, the cost right now to transact is quite expensive. We're talking points, not decimal points. And so that's a big point. Two, over the last 5 years, more and more global investors are asking us about the role of crypto. And as I said, I do believe a lot of crypto is going to be, it's an international asset. It has a differentiating value versus other asset classes, but more importantly, because it's so international, it's going to transcend any one currency and currency valuation. If you just look at the value of our dollar, how it depreciated the last two months, and how much it appreciated over the last 5 years. I mean, an international crypto product can really transcend that. And that's why we believe there's great opportunities, and that's why we're seeing more and more interest. And that interest is broad-based worldwide.
Nothing short of fascinating. One thing we really try and do on this channel is keep you guys fired up about this industry and the revolution that it is. And the opportunities, you know, I've already changed my life as a crypto investor, and I believe that opportunity is far from over. And certainly on this channel, we talk about many projects, Hedera, things like Polkadot, Quant Network, you know, projects that could play Chainlink a fundamental role in tomorrow's world. And we can already see them making headway in that. So very interesting clip. Important to remember. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's get off of the yield and the boring debt markets, which we'll come to in just a second, and talk about crypto. So we've really set forward a couple of short-term routes for Bitcoin to go. You know, ultimately we got back into the market here. It's all public. I'm hoping that we'll go down as the perfect bottom callers. And bearing in mind, we were people who stayed out from here down and only got back in here. But there's a couple of scenarios we've laid out for Bitcoin, right? We've spoken about this kind of possibility. Even though I'm not an Elliotician, it is something that, of course, we've got knowledge of your 5-wave impulse and then an ABC. The real question is, what does this ABC look like? Is, you know, the ABC going to look something like this, which I'd quite like to see, which we've compared to September, you know, something like this, I actually wouldn't mind seeing. Although it could have thrashed out a low enough, you know, you got buyers coming in here, you know, was this the kind of ABC? And then we get ready to rock and roll, or are you waiting to do something like this? And I would go short-term bullish, flipping sort of 28,500, and then do you do something like that and put in that head and shoulders? This is the downside risk we're looking at, and of course we'll look to play that. If you guys want to play that with me, please do consider becoming a Patreon. There's a link in the description. And that's the real downside worry. Although the vibes that I get in the short term here are similar to the vibes that I got over here. And you also had, and I remember trading this publicly, a lot of people calling for a head and shoulders here. And actually we were saying, no, you're thrashing out those lows. You've got very low volatility coming in. You know, it's more likely to us that you do something like this and come out to the other side of it. And I feel like this is very much what you're doing here. And this could lead to some pretty significant upside. Some of our altcoins are absolutely flying this morning, which is very nice to see. But we will see, you know, it's quite make or break for Bitcoin. It's got to show that short-term strength. We're still in the month of September. There's still a lot going on. We've, of course, got the FOMC rate decision on Wednesday. What are we doing here? And it very much looks like they're not going to up rates, in my opinion. However, we still have that inflation uncertainty, which, of course, is leaning into dollar strength. Dollars running into key resistance. Likely going to have a bit of a rest at some point here. That could coincide with the stock market sort of rearing its head. Remember, we have higher targets for the stock market. This is all planned out. You don't get this 360 analysis anywhere else on YouTube, barring maybe one other channel that I can think of, guys. It's very interesting. You know, we've got small cap stocks that look interesting and like altcoins. You know, in terms of, and I think if you add the pictures up together, you know, you've got what was 2022. Most altcoins and small stocks are like that. Some of them, like our golden child, one of the greatest calls we made this year, Microsoft has done exceedingly well, likely to continue to do so. You know, we've got a lot of reasons to suggest otherwise. So we'll see what happens with Bitcoin. We'll see what happens for altcoins. Altcoins doing quite well. Really, for me, it's a case of attacking here and getting over this. And then we can start talking about being short-term bullish and looking for that upside. And once you take this area out, remember, we still have targets in the 40K region, which could get reached this year. And that's not, I don't think, too much of a wild prediction. Talking about traditional markets now, you had some pretty crazy movements on the US 2-year. And what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this. Now, is this the top of the 2-year? Which, of course, means that rates are done and they're now going to start pricing in cuts, potentially. Or is there some serious issues going on with the bond market? You remember the gilts. What do we want? You remember this happened with the gilts, right? And the inverse of this was the yield. So the yields, bonds go down, yields go up. Okay. It's very interesting that this happened. I haven't found yet any explanations for why this happened. But when you have the biggest market in the world moving like a $100 million market caps, altcoin, it's cause for concern. So this is something to watch. Debt is central to everything. Lots of people get worried because of charts like this. Well, actually, we think this is very much in line with our thinking because the crash usually doesn't happen until the unwinding. The crash usually doesn't happen until the laggard effect of rates has taken place and the yield curves are inverted, which we don't assess is for a while. And we don't think a major crash that everyone's been calling for a while now is on the table for anywhere from 12 months upwards. But we'll see if we're right on that. And we've been saying that really since the start of the year. And we think actually, you've got to wait till rates stop and then there'll be this kind of lag into whatever happens. We've likened where we are today to 2006. And right now you've got major central banks are on the brink of peak rates, but the inflation battle might not be over. So inflation is definitely one to watch. Certainly we were very, very early on this channel at calling oil. And the reason we're early is because we're technical traders. Oil's running into a bit of resistance, but this is what I would call now stage 1 breakout. Stage 2 breakout that's likely going to lead to continuation in regards to oil. This is a pain, that bloody spill that you had, obviously, as a result of what. But oil actually typically has positive correlations with the S&P. We're seeing strong growth really across the board, and oil could be a representation of that, or with probably the compounding effects of what OPEC are doing. So it could be a really good day for crypto, good week for crypto, certainly with the rate hike. I think markets will enjoy that. Some of our altcoins are 8% today, which is quite nice to see. As always, we'll keep you up to date day in and day out. Don't forget to check out our website, talking about Larry Fink. We've done a number of articles on Larry Fink. We've done a number of articles on BlackRock as ETF and why Bitcoin ETF is such a big deal. Over at allincrypto.com, please do remember to check that out, and also check out our Twitter at realallincrypto.com and everything in between. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed this content, like us, appreciate it as a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.